It was one of those afternoons where the heat seemed to hang in the air, thick and heavy, making everything feel slower. I'd been driving for hours, the kind of long, monotonous drive that makes your legs ache and your mind wander. My truck's air conditioning was struggling to keep up, and I could feel the sweat sticking to the back of my shirt. I decided to pull into a rest stop just off the highway to stretch my legs, grab a cold drink, and clear my head. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few cars scattered here and there. I parked my truck, stepped out, and took a deep breath, trying to shake off the fatigue. That's when I noticed her. A few spaces over, there was a beat-up sedan with a young girl sitting in the driver's seat. She looked to be in her early 20s, maybe younger. Her hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. Her eyes were darting around, scanning the parking lot like she was looking for something, or someone. Something about her caught my attention. She didn't look like she was just resting. She looked scared. I started walking toward the rest area, but out of the corner of my eye I saw her hand move. It wasn't a casual gesture. She made a fist, then tucked her thumb inside her palm, repeating it a few times. My heart stopped for a second. I knew that signal. I'd learned it during my time in the Marines. It meant, help me. I froze, my mind racing. Was I imagining things? Maybe she was just fidgeting. But the look on her face, wide-eyed, panicked, told me this wasn't nothing. I glanced around the parking lot. There were a few other people milling about, but no one seemed to be paying attention to her. I took a deep breath and decided to trust my gut. I couldn't just walk away. I turned and walked toward her car, trying to act casual. As I got closer, I could see her more clearly. She had long, dark hair and a pale face, her eyes red like she'd been crying. She glanced at me, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of hope in her expression. I leaned down slightly, pretending to tie my shoe, and whispered, "Are you okay?" She didn't say anything at first. Her lips trembled, and she shook her head almost imperceptibly. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. My stomach twisted. Something was very wrong. I straightened up and scanned the parking lot again, trying to spot anyone who might be watching her. That's when I noticed him. A man was standing near the vending machines, about 50 feet away. He was tall, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, and he was staring right at her car. When he saw me looking, he quickly turned away, pretending to fiddle with his phone. My instincts screamed at me. This wasn't a coincidence. I opened the passenger door and slid into the seat beside her, keeping my voice low. "What's going on? Do you need help?" She hesitated, then whispered, "He's been following me. I don't know what to do." Her voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. I could feel the fear radiating off her, and it made my chest tighten. I didn't think twice. "Drive," I said firmly. "I'll stay with you until we're somewhere safe." She nodded, her hands trembling as she turned the key in the ignition. I kept my eyes on the rearview mirror, watching the man by the vending machines. He didn't move as we pulled out of the parking lot, but I could feel his gaze on us until we were out of sight. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the tension thick in the air. Finally, she spoke. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know what to do. He's been following me since the last town. I thought if I stopped, he'd leave me alone, but he just kept getting closer." I nodded, my heart aching for her. "You did the right thing," I said. "You're safe now." I asked her if she wanted to go to the police, and she nodded quickly. We drove to the nearest station, where I stayed with her while she filed a report. The officers took her statement seriously, and they assured her they'd look into it. Before I left, she hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she said again. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded and told her to take care of herself. As I walked back to my truck, I couldn't shake the feeling of how close she'd been to something terrible. But I also felt a strange sense of gratitude. Gratitude that I'd been there, that I'd recognized her silent cry for help. It reminded me that sometimes the smallest gestures can mean the most. And sometimes, being in the right place at the right time can change everything. I got back on the road, the sun now lower in the sky. My mind kept going back to her. Her scared eyes, her trembling hands, the way she'd hugged me like I was the only thing standing between her and disaster. I didn't know her name, and I'd probably never see her again. But I knew one thing for sure. I was glad I'd stopped at that rest stop. Sometimes, the world puts you exactly where you need to be, even if you don't realize it at the time. And sometimes all it takes is one moment, one gesture, to make a difference. As I drove, I thought about how life can change in an instant. 1 minute, you're just going about your day, and the next, you're thrown into a situation where you have to make a choice. I didn't feel like a hero, I just did what felt right. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. About what might have happened if I hadn't been there. It made me realize how fragile life can be, how quickly things can go wrong, and how important it is to look out for each other. The rest of the drive was quiet, the hum of the tires on the road the only sound. I kept replaying the moment I saw her hand signal, the way her eyes had locked onto mine, the relief in her voice when she realized she wasn't alone. It was a reminder that even in a world that can feel so big and disconnected, we're all still connected in ways we don't always see. And sometimes, all it takes is one person to make a difference. By the time I got home, the sun had set and the sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. I sat in my driveway for a moment, just staring at the horizon. I didn't know what would happen to her, if the police would find the man who'd been following her, or if she'd be okay. But I hoped, more than anything, that she'd be safe. That she'd know there are still people out there who care, who will stop and help when they see someone in trouble. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about how life is full of moments we can't plan for. Moments that test us, that push us to act, to be brave, to be kind. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. I'd never forget that girl. The way she'd looked at me, or the way she'd reminded me that even in the darkest moments, there's always hope. And sometimes, hope is all we need to keep going. Hey everyone, if this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you why we need to keep having these conversations, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps spread awareness. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Let's talk about it. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're here to share real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Lastly, share this with your friends and family. The more people who see this, the more we can bring awareness and change. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Let's keep pushing forward, together.